It was a Sunday. I had borrowed my wife's car to pick up a couple of new lawn chairs. I was listening to This American Life on NPR, and there was a book mentioned that I wanted to jot down the name of. As I steered with one hand, I rummaged through the center console with the other, digging past the CD cases, hoping to find a pen. I pulled out a bunch of random things: a crumpled Bit O' Honey wrapper, a folded Starbucks cup sleeve, a quarter, a little folding hairbrush, and some round thing with a squishy center. But nothing else felt like a condom in its wrapper. I almost lost control of the car. You know those moments that replay in your mind like they happened in slow motion? The glance to the left, catching the sight of a red Toyota next to me, driven by a heavyset guy with red hair and an earring. The speedometer needle was hovering at 34 miles per hour, the dust on the dashboard, the green light up ahead I knew would stay green. The squashed bug on the windshield, the ridges of a CD case scraping against my wrist, and then, the shock of touching something unexpected. Thoughts, though, don't come in clear snapshots. Even though I knew it couldn't be true, did I think, is that mine? Did I immediately jump to, she's cheating? It's hard to make sense of thoughts. Was my first reaction guilt for having stumbled upon what might be a hidden truth? Was it fear? Was it knowing I might have done something wrong? I pulled into a Burger King drive-thru and ordered a medium Coke. I parked under a no-game parking, Burger King customers only sign, holding the Coke in my right hand and the condom in my left. I blinked. I always blink. Everyone blinks, but this time, I noticed it. The Coke tasted like nothing, just fizzy water with too much ice. I checked the glove compartment. I checked the trunk. I opened the doors and peeked under the seats. And then I found it, small, wrapped in a plastic bag from the supermarket, tucked under the passenger seat where it wouldn't be visible unless you looked closely. Inside the bag was a small spiral-bound notebook. My heart was pounding as I opened it. The first 2 pages were blank. The next 2 pages had lists written in them. 427, hi, 130. 51, chi, 11. 5/6, TL, 1. 511, TL, 2, must be out by 5. I counted 32 entries, stretching over 4 months with dates spaced every 4 or 5 days. The last one referred to tomorrow, 8/29, hi, 1:30. One entry was crossed out. Under any other circumstances, I might not have paid much attention to the lists. But I recognized the pattern. It was my travel schedule. The crossed-out entry was the day I had fallen sick and had to stay home. The condom, well, it told me what to think. Holiday Inn, Quality Inn, Travel Lodge. And tomorrow, Holiday Inn at 1:30, the time I would normally be 125 miles away. I hoped I was wrong. The condom said no. Okay. Let's assume she's cheating on you. This is 4 months, not a one-time thing. She's seriously cheating. She's keeping a list. You're going to lose her. But you don't want her anymore. She's trash. But you love her. You have to confront her. You don't want to deal with it. How are you going to find someone else? I shook my head, closed my eyes, and realized I was sinking into confusion. What if she's running some side business? Why would she hide that? What if she's in love with someone else? What if it's a woman? I scratched the back of my neck. Without more evidence, I didn't know how to confront her. What would she say? I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out. Please forgive me. I'm leaving you. It was a huge mistake. Someone's blackmailing me. I need to be with other men. I didn't want to lose you, but you weren't giving me what I needed. She could say anything. I found out you're sterile, so I've been sleeping with your brother to get pregnant. Could I be sterile without knowing it? Or maybe I should take it further. I'm a vampire and meet strangers at hotels to drink their blood. I'm a secret agent, and what I do is classified, but it's all for the good of our country. I put the condom and notebook back in their places. When you're deeply sad, the bottom part of your face seems to sag, as if gravity is pulling it down harder. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I'd read enough about infidelity to understand that it could happen if someone was unhappy, and maybe in some way, this was my fault too. My self-image didn't shatter. My life didn't fall apart. I felt hurt, angry, sad, and confused, and I seriously questioned whether I had taken the wrong path in life, whether I was the wrong person, and whether I needed to change to be someone else. That evening, I pretended everything was fine. When Sherry tried to talk about the book she was reading, I told her I was focused on work, that I had a tough week ahead, and couldn't shake the worry. I'm sorry, baby. I'm just feeling quiet tonight. She went into the bedroom to read. I washed the dishes, threw in a load of whites, and busied myself until she fell asleep. The next morning, I dressed quickly, left the house, and made my calls from the car. I was at the Holiday Inn by 10 a.m. It was an older place, where you could park right outside your room instead of entering through the lobby. When things get desperate, you take desperate steps. I'm not a great liar. I have this compulsion to tell the truth, and I love sharing information. That works for my job because it helps people feel connected to me, or they just like me enough to get more from me. I'd prefer it's the former, but I know that business contacts are not true friends. "Hi," I said to the desk clerk. "I think my wife is meeting someone here at 1:30. He barely reacted. "I think she's having an affair. I want to see who she's with." He looked unsure. "I just want to watch the security cameras." "I can't do that, sir. With all due respect, you might be a bit off your rocker. This hotel is responsible for its guests, not for you. You could cause harm, and I don't even know if she's your wife." All valid points. My first boss had taught me that when you're breaking new ground, you need to allow extra time because things never go according to plan. If my life were a detective novel, I would have slipped him a 20. But I'm not a tough guy. I'm a negotiator and manager, and I'm good at both. The desk clerk and I talked, and he eventually understood that it would be safer for the hotel if I watched the cameras in his presence. At least then he'd know I wasn't up to anything crazy. If I left, I could be lurking outside, and there'd be no way to prevent any potential trouble. It made more sense for him to let me watch while he kept an eye on me. I bought lunch at Subway, classic tuna for me and chicken bacon ranch for him. I parked across the street and walked back to the hotel. We watched the local noon news. I shared what I knew with him, the notebook, the condom, and he told me about his family, his nephew in prison, and his father's bad heart. We ate our sandwiches, talked about fat calories, and diets. He tried Atkins. We both agreed the hardest part was keeping the weight off. We were becoming fast friends who would never meet again. At 1:25, Sherry arrived. She parked by the back entrance, far from the street, and sat in her car talking on the phone. At 1:33, a blue BMW pulled up beside her. A tall man with brown hair got out and headed to the door. He swiped his key, entered the room, and glanced back at Sherry. She got out of her car, checked her hair in the mirror one last time, and walked over to him. He wrapped his arm around her waist and pulled her in close. The door shut behind them. I've never used the word cuckold before, not in conversation, not in reference to any guy whose wife has cheated. The term never even crossed my mind. It's derived from the cuckoo bird, which lays its eggs in another bird's nest, tricking that bird into raising its young. But as far as I know, Sherry wasn't pregnant, so I wasn't raising someone else's kid. Still, I felt like a cuckold. The best case scenario would have been that she was meeting someone I didn't know, perhaps someone she'd met at the gym or through a friend, a casual fling that had become more intense over time but was now starting to lose its spark. A fling, while painful, is something you can recover from. With time and understanding, you can work through the hurt and recommit. The worst case scenario? That would have been her meeting my worst enemy. That would be a betrayal of a different kind, a betrayal meant to hurt so deeply it feels like being stabbed in the back. That kind of betrayal isn't something you can come back from. The wound cuts straight to the heart. In the worst case, you'd question everything, whether you've always been drawn to people who would hurt you, whether you've been misled by someone who acted like your friend while plotting your downfall. But this wasn't the best case scenario. It wasn't the worst either. This was the middle ground. She wasn't with a stranger, but she wasn't with my enemy. And that's tough, because it involves two betrayals, the one from your wife and the one from the other guy. If the other guy is just some acquaintance, maybe a golfing buddy or a guy who's married to one of your wife's friends, his betrayal feels like just another thing you can brush off. But if the other guy is your own brother or father, someone close to you, then that betrayal stings even more, it cuts deeper than hers. A wife isn't blood. I might have my issues with my brother, but I'd probably stick with my family and let go of the woman. After all, you can always find another wife. But no, she was with my best friend. Right there on the security monitor, I saw it, the anticipation. She was with Tom, my best friend. Tom, the guy who was my best man at my wedding, the one who'd known me for over 20 years. He knew how much Sherry meant to me, he knew what trust, commitment, and marriage meant to me. And he betrayed that trust. The desk clerk, my new friend, understood. We shook hands, our bond solid, unaffected by this strange moment. I walked across the street, got in my car, and went to the driving range. I hit 2 large buckets of balls. By the time I was halfway through the second bucket, I felt my mid-irons drawing perfectly. My woods were sharp. I crushed a 4-iron shot, watching the ball soar. It was the perfect moment, a brief escape from the chaos. Golf, as tough as it is has its moments of absolute clarity. On a whim, I called Tom's house. "Hey Peg, how's it going?" "Great. I'm heading back early today and was wondering if you two wanted to meet up for dinner. Tonight or tomorrow? It's your call." "Alright, so let's do tonight. 7 at Chiro's? Perfect. See you there." I then called Sherry's phone and left a message. "I'm coming home early today, so I called Peg and set up dinner for us at Chiro's at 7. I'll call you on your cell." I left the same message on her voicemail. I arrived home at 6. Sherry was in the shower, and her gym bag was open on the floor. I couldn't resist checking it. Nothing unusual. I looked through the laundry, checking her panties for any signs. Nothing. "Hey, baby," I called through the bathroom door. "I need to shower too." "I'll be out in a minute," she replied. I suddenly realized, this could be the last time we'd share an intimate moment before everything changed. Whatever happened from here on out, things between us would never be the same. I dropped my clothes, walked into the bathroom, and gently pulled her into my arms. "You feel so good," I whispered. She started to pull away, but I took control, wrapping my arms around her waist. "We've got a little time. Let's make it count." I reached for her, giving her a meaningful squeeze. She relaxed, and I kissed the back of her neck. Slowly, I began to move closer, feeling the weight of the moment. Sherry turned to face me, and I pressed her against the shower wall. I kissed her softly, my hands exploring as we shared a quiet connection in the water. Every touch, every kiss felt like a last moment of intimacy before the storm. The best case scenario would have been that she was meeting someone I didn't know, a casual affair, maybe someone she'd met at the gym or through a friend, someone whose connection to her had been fleeting and was now perhaps losing its intensity. It would have been a fling, a mistake, something you could eventually move past. With time and understanding, you could rebuild trust and move forward. The worst case scenario would have been if she was with my worst enemy. That's the kind of betrayal that cuts deep, something that leaves a mark that can't be erased. It's a wound that runs straight to your heart, and there's no recovery from that kind of pain. In this scenario, you start questioning everything, your judgment, your choices, and whether you've been blind to the truth all along. But this wasn't the best or worst case. This was the middle ground, her not being a stranger or an enemy, but someone closer, someone in my circle. And that middle ground is hard to navigate. It involves 2 betrayals, one from your wife, and one from the other person. If the other person is a friend or acquaintance, it feels like a punch in the gut, but you can move on. If it's someone you're supposed to trust deeply, like a brother or a father, it feels worse. But even then, a wife is not blood. And in this case, the betrayal was with my best friend. Tom, my best friend, was betraying me. He was my best man at my wedding, and I had known him since we were kids. He knew what Sherry meant to me, what trust and commitment meant to me. And now, he had crossed a line I couldn't come back from. I didn't make a scene at the dinner table. I kept calm, but my mind was racing. The tension in the air was palpable. I had to ask the question that had been eating at me. "What would you do if you found out your best friend was betraying you?" I asked. "What if your wife was cheating on you with your best friend?" The silence was thick. It felt like the weight of my words was hanging in the air, waiting for a response. I continued, "I'm just wondering, what would you do if it were me? If I were the one with Peg?" I paused. "Would it hurt you more that it was me, or would you make excuses for me?" Tom didn't answer right away. Neither did Sherry. But I could tell from the looks on their faces that something was wrong. I pressed on, "I've been thinking about this because I just found out something that really caught me off guard." That's when Tom's reaction gave it all away. He didn't come back with a joke or a retort. Instead, he sat there, stunned. And in that silence, I knew the truth. Tom had been seeing Sherry behind my back. The air was thick with the weight of what had just been revealed. Tom's face dropped as he realized his mistake. Peg, who had been unaware of the situation, was too shocked to speak. I made the decision then and there to confront them. "I'm just wondering," I said, "should I just walk away quietly, or do I need to do something about this?" The tension broke when Peg, unable to hold back her emotions any longer, reacted violently. Tom tried to explain, but Peg wasn't listening anymore. I didn't need to say anything else. I stood up, paid the bill, and walked out with Sherry. In the car, Sherry apologized, but her words didn't seem to matter. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaky. "Are you sorry because you got caught? Or are you sorry because you hurt me?" I said, my voice steady but cold. "Sorry because you ruined our marriage? Sorry because you betrayed me, your best friend? What exactly are you sorry for?" She broke down in tears, but I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. I drove her to her parents' house and told her to get out. I was done. When I got home, I went through a whirlwind of emotions. I was filled with anger, sadness, and confusion, unsure of what to do next. I knew my life had just changed in a way that would be hard to reverse. The next morning, after a restless night, I took a shower. I thought back to everything that had happened, how my life had been torn apart in a single moment. My mind was numb, but I knew I had to face the reality of what had just occurred. I decided to call Tom. I needed to hear him admit what he had done. He was remorseful, but his words didn't change anything. I told him our friendship was over. I couldn't trust him anymore. He had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. After I hung up, I knew exactly what I had to do. It was over. The marriage, the friendship, it was all gone. I was moving forward, and there was no turning back. I drove to Sherry's parents' house, ready to make my final decision. When I saw her there, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to save the marriage. It was too broken. The betrayal was too deep. I'm done, I told her. You've ruined everything. I'm going to divorce you. Sherry's tears didn't change anything. I knew I couldn't stay in this toxic relationship any longer. The damage was done. I wasn't moved. You've hurt me beyond measure. I don't think you'll ever understand what you've done to me. I know you love me. Do you hear me? I know you love me. That's why I'm divorcing you. Because I want to hurt you. I want to hurt you bad. You love me. You lost me. You live with that. She made a noise, one that seemed to express the agony of the moment, a sound full of sorrow and regret. Here's what I'm going to do. You listening? Sherry didn't respond. You listening? She nodded, her face a mask of sorrow and pain. After the divorce is final, after it's completely done and not a minute before. If you're a good girl, we can start seeing each other again. Sherry looked at me, her face filled with regret. I fell in love with you once. I'll give you the chance to make me fall in love with you again. I'm not going back. This marriage is over. It's history. You want me, then you have to earn me all over again. That's the only way I'll have anything to do with you. Sherry nodded, biting her lip, her mouth silently forming the word yes. I'm through with Tom. He was my friend, and he betrayed me. That doesn't get forgiven. If you see him, if you talk to him, then you're with him and not with me. That's the way it is. Friends don't betray their friends. He's not my friend anymore. I barely spoke with Sherry during the divorce. We sold the condo, and Sherry moved in with her parents while I got an apartment. I saw her father a few times. We kept it light, but there was an understanding that the situation was serious. When he brought up the destruction of Sherry's clothes, I told him she was lucky she wasn't there to witness it. He understood. I always liked him. The divorce took 4 months, slightly less time than Sherry's affair with Tom had lasted. Peg called me twice in the days after the restaurant incident. I waited until I saw her leave her house, and then I left a message saying that Tom was out of my life forever, which meant she was too. I told Peg I was divorcing Sherry and that I would consider starting fresh with her only if she stayed away from both Tom and the situation entirely. I never heard from her again, and through mutual friends, I learned that she and Tom were in counseling. I didn't want to be around when the divorce was finalized, so I went on an adventure vacation in Chile, hiking and climbing. The physical exertion completely cleared my mind. Sherry left me a voicemail asking if we could talk, and I called her back from a taxi on my way home from the airport. Hey, I said. You still interested in doing this? The whole cheating and divorce experience had made me more direct. I was wondering if you were going to call. I just got back in town. Are we doing this or what? Can we talk? When? Where? What are you doing this afternoon? You want to meet for a drink? Anywhere but Chiro's. She was waiting in a booth, a glass of water in front of her. I sat down, and we looked at each other. I didn't waste words. Are we going to feel each other out? Is there something you want to say? Do you want to do this? I want to do this. Which is what? What do you want to do? You don't give me much room, do you? She said, closing her eyes for a moment. Am I supposed to say I'm sorry? You tell me what I'm supposed to do. I smiled to myself and leaned forward. You're supposed to make me fall in love with you. You did it once. That's both good and bad. I know most of your tricks, so you may have to work a little harder, but you know a lot about me too, so you've got a leg up. I looked at her, challenging her with my eyes. She thought for a moment, then said with absolute sincerity, how do I make you trust me? Wow, I said, pressing my lips together like I was deep in thought. This is our first date. Trust is something you build. You have to earn trust. You've got some issues to work through, and, well, I've been hurt too. But, I shrugged, it's funny how life works. Sherry was quiet. I could see her processing everything. I waited. I'm not as easy as you may have heard, she said. Really? I heard you were pretty much a sure thing. No, she shook her head. I'm looking for something substantial. If you just want something casual, I'm not the right girl. I raised an eyebrow. She cocked her head, holding her water glass with both hands. Do you like what I'm wearing? She asked, gesturing to her blouse and skirt. I just got it. My ex-husband cut all my clothes to pieces, so I had to buy a whole new wardrobe. Very nice. It looks good on you. Your ex sounds like a real jerk. Her eyes narrowed slightly. I guess he didn't like my clothes, she said, leaning toward me. There was one good thing about him. Just one? More than one, but this one was very important. I leaned forward, intrigued. And what would that be? He was an excellent kisser, she said, almost whispering. We were nearly touching. I couldn't be interested in any guy who couldn't kiss at least as well. She tilted her head, and we were inches apart. I just couldn't. The words lingered in the air as our lips met for a slow, gentle kiss, a sweet first date kiss. We lingered in the space we shared before she leaned back and stretched. I did the same. She smiled, her eyes twinkling. This, she said, is going to be so much fun.